Here we are, everyone, on this Wednesday, January 14th, and appreciate you joining us. Don't be alarmed if you're thinking, I can't see much on the shot of our SkyTrack network, but that's on purpose because the camera is up and it's supposed to be observing our downtown Louisville skyline, but you can see just how thick the fog is. It's on an afternoon. We saw that snow change to rain, and so we're hoping, going to break that down a little further for you as we process how to plan for the next couple days left in the work week for Thursday and Friday. And surely the storm tracking team going to do that all for us later tonight. But for now, we're here in the Wave Now studio with the breakdown of the day's top stories. Another opportunity just to go over those with you on this live stream of Wave News Extra, whether that's on the Wave Now app or connecting with us wherever you are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and X. So I appreciate your time doing that, by the way. I'm Jose Sosaya. We're going to begin with a story that's pretty multi-layered. And with that, it's the news and the update coming out of JCPS's big discussion today. Now, for the context, it is the biggest school district in all of Kentucky, and they do still have to deal with pretty difficult decisions to try to make up some, of the deficit for the financial situation. And the big news is the proposal today that in essence wants to cut more than $140 million, but it also would mean the cuts of hundreds of jobs within JCPS. Our ongoing reporting, all sort of understanding that the end goal is to balance the budget as a top priority for JCPS leadership. And we're going to break down a little bit more of what those changes could be down the pipe. Our first look at the proposed changes, these are all what first-year District Superintendent Dr. Brian Yearwood has been laying out. And so, again, the specific dollar amount we're looking at as a proposal, $142 million of cuts, which he says would start with a cut of 300 jobs in the central office. That would be the largest cut dollar amount at $44 million. In theory, you would save there. Yearwood says additional measures would include a slimmer cabinet, centralized academic instruction coaches, and slimmer centralized bookkeeping. And also, he says, a move away from safety administrators. The draft budget for the 2026 to 27 school year still accounts, though, for a $39 million deficit. And ultimately, JCPS leadership feels what's being proposed could fix the problems caused by the massive deficit in and of itself and balance the budget not too far away.
The purpose of our cuts, as one would say, wasn't just to address the financial crisis. It was also to realign, because one area that we are not where we need to be is in student success. So we had to look at, is this best for kids?
And our Logan Perrone was the one working on this report at the meeting earlier this afternoon. I would encourage you all to take a look at the reporting that's probably already published up on wave3.com, where you're going to hear a little bit more of what Dr. Yearwood and some of the other board leaders had to say. But we know that there's also a major change coming to the district's own leadership. This is part of that move to try and correct the deficit. Chief Financial Officer Eddie Munns, who has been in his role at JCPS since September of 23, is no longer going to be there as of July 1st. So he will be out of that job, and a chief business officer is going to take over those responsibilities of chief financial officer. So big stakes for so many of you tuning in, whether you do have kids or you're, a stakeholder involved and working or a part of JCPS, that it's a monumentous decision. And so something we'll certainly keep tabs of over the next weeks and months. For folks living in Clifton, the big word and the sight to see soon next week is going to be the demolition of the former Givaudan plant, because that's starting next Monday. The Clifton Community Council posting the update just today, saying Givaudan plans to have equipment and contractors on site to begin the demolition process. The work should take about 40 days once it starts. Again, this has been the time since the explosion happened back in November of 24, where 2 workers were killed, 11 more people were hurt. Records show the blast was caused by a failed vent in a cooking vessel and that had caramel coloring in it. The demolition process, again, leadership saying that the work to tear it all down is going to happen Monday through Thursdays. There could be some work that has to happen on the weekends, though, depending on the weather. Coming back here in the studio, it's been a day of some pretty major updates. Notwithstanding are the new clues tonight into what could have caused the crash of UPS Flight 2976 here in town. The NTSB's newly issued report focuses on part of the hardware that's connected to the MD-11 model plane's pylon to the wing that seemed to be the problem area. And this is what our troubleshooters were going to break down as far as some of the data. So you see a copy there of the NTSB's release. It finds that Boeing had alerted MD-11 operators back in 2011 that this part in particular had failed 4 times on 3 different planes, and it needed to be inspected every 5 years. So our troubleshooters say that part was on a faster schedule for checks than the pylon itself. And we're going to show you now are some images of the parts that are in question here. So the NTSB's first report laid out how UPS inspected the pylons on each MD-11 plane every 6 years. It's this particular part that was lubricated during the aircraft's heavy maintenance work in San Antonio this fall. So have that in mind as we were looking at some of the images there. But the engine of the pylon broke free from the plane as it was trying to take off, causing the fire, leading to the deadly crash. The NTSB Materials Lab found that this metal race holding, it's again, very technical terms, but you see it holds what's called a spherical bearing, but that had split into 2. Investigators found evidence of fatigue cracking on 3/4 of the race's surface. The bearings had been greased earlier in the fall when the plane was sent to the contract maintenance facility UPS has in San Antonio. So now the NTSB says it's looking at whether Boeing's own maintenance letter about the bearing race was actually part of UPS's maintenance program. So what Boeing had said as far as guidance, if that was part of UPS's own procedures. So there's a prior report saying UPS had the pylon mount on 72 months would be a 6-year inspection cycle, which was last done in 2021 for the plane in question. But Boeing's recommendation was for this bearing race to be inspected every 60 months. So instead of the 72 months, they recommended a year sooner. Boeing's service letter said the bearings race failure would not result, though, in a flight safety condition. So again, it's very technical terms, but as more and more information does come out, we're hoping, we'll bring in, analysts, experts, insights that can, add some more color and context to what all this is, because it's still such an extensive investigation. And so to, kind of sum up what the update is from our troubleshooters on what happened and what the report entails, Boeing's service letter detailed how the inspectors should check this part and recommend a replacement with a different design. However, Boeing's letter did not prohibit, it didn't ban replacing a worn bearing with the same part. The NTSB says it's also looking at how Boeing itself communicated with the FAA about this specific service letter leading up to 2011 and thereafter. So a very dense story and update. Will certainly keep you abreast of what's going on there. In this update, LMPD says their new drone program is helping keep our community safer thanks to a new partnership with Metro Government and Metro Emergency Services. So LMPD posted this video to their social media pages. This was back from December 30th when officers figured out this was a call about domestic violence on Hopedale Way in Valley Village. They say this was some images of the suspect taking off before officers arrived. The police had the drone up in the air within minutes. They tracked the man down. Once he realized that he was being followed, you saw there, they eventually, got a hold of him and brought him into custody. LMPD says that is exactly what the drone program was designed to do. They're excited then to further expand the new tech for cases that would merit it across the metro. Heads up, had you been taking any personal belongings inside the locker room at local Planet Fitness? We're going to talk about the specific location because LMPD says they arrested this woman for stealing at that location. This was a case that they traced back to January 9th, so not too long ago, at the gym at the Planet Fitness on Urton Lane in Middletown. So the report says 34-year-old Morgan Cash was seen on video going into the women's locker room, and the report further says that she stole a debit card, a gift card, and $60 cash from a victim's wallet inside the space. Shortly after that, police say the victim got a fraud attempt notification because Cash allegedly tried to use the debit card at a Speedway gas station. Cash was arrested just yesterday, cited for having a plastic baggie with a white substance inside, but she's also now charged with theft, unlawful access to a computer, and drug possession. Scoping out further across the Commonwealth, this is the mugshot of a father accused of shooting and killing his son. He was arrested in Adair County. Kentucky State Police say they got called to a home in Columbia Tuesday afternoon, right after 3. Troopers say they found Jordan Hadley, 33-year-old Jordan Hadley, who had been shot, and he later died at the hospital. But KSP says they believe his father, 56-year-old Philip Hadley, said there's been some ongoing fight between the two men. Hadley told KSP his son shoved him twice, and then when he came at him a third time, that is when the father shot the son, they say. Philip Hadley there being charged now with murder and held without bond at the Adair County Detention Center. In our last story for this specific block of the first batch, I want to break down with you here on Wave News Extra. It is an update on what is now a criminal case. It is in the court of law, but there's conflicting accounts, and the attorney of a woman charged with shooting and killing another woman outside the McDonald's on New Year's Eve. That was the breaking news we brought to you as it was happening. Well, the defense attorney says there's a lot more to what happened, and two very different versions of this, ultimately deadly outcome. LMPD saying yesterday, though, they'd arrested Shoshana Jones after they say she killed Mayra Rodriguez Munoz outside the McDonald's. Jones was in jail court this morning. Her attorney, and this is what our Fernando Garcia Francischini spent his day reporting, that officers left out, in his mind, some key details.
According to police, Shoshana Jones was upset a child hit her car door in the parking lot outside the McDonald's on East Market Street. Police say Jones then began yelling at the child, and the child's mother, Lorraine Peña Bolaño, got involved. Police say Jones then pulled out a gun, which prompted another woman, Mayra Rodriguez Munoz, to come out of the car to intervene. The arrest report states Jones then shot Rodriguez Munoz. Jones is charged with murder, robbery, and being a felon with a gun. She made her first court appearance on Wednesday, and her attorney says LMPD has left some important details out of the story, including that the person who hit Jones's car was not a child.
These are young adults, okay, that are going to be hitting that 18 pretty soon. Okay, and they were approaching her, all 3 of them at the time of this shooting. It's one shot, okay, and she was there for a lawful purpose, eating her food, when these people came up and the incident began.
Jones's bond was set at $500,000. Her attorney argued it should be reduced to $25,000, saying Jones surrendered voluntarily and that she has a steady work record.
Judge, she has multiple children, a huge family here in Louisville. She's got significant contacts. I think $1 million bond is preposterous. I think $500,000 is preposterous.
The judge decided to keep her bond at $500,000. Jones is also prohibited from having contact with any McDonald's and with the families of the 2 other women involved.
And our thanks to our Fernando Garcia Francischini for that update in his report. As we take a look at the clock, 8:18, and very appreciative you're sticking with us in the live stream here on Wave News Extra. What we're going to do is a reset to bring you some more stories after this commercial break. So hope you stick with us, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back in, folks, here to the Wave News Extra live stream. A reminder that we're still, here working until really late and getting all of our stories and original reporting ready for you at Wave News at 11. To that point, Julia Richardson, her next report coming up tonight when you join us at 11. It has to do with a meeting that likely, just wrapped up not too long ago in Metro District 8, if that's where your neighborhood is. There was a neighborhood advisory group that invited people to come by who would express their concerns that there was some reporting from around mid-December by Business First saying a gun store was opening location on Bardstown Road. That was the plan and filing through there. And it would be, in theory, the business plan for it is a store and a combo gun range opening on the Bardstown Center property. We knew heading into the meeting, Metro District 8 leaders were planning to be there to field questions from residents or nearby store owners at different shops wondering about the new business's plans. And so we're going to break that down in much more detail when Julia is going to have her full report for us tonight at 11. Moving on to the stories that we do want to break down for you here in the live stream. The rallies at the corner of 22nd and Broadway could be closed for months because a car crashed into the building very early this morning. And you're seeing just the damage left behind. It started as a two-car crash around 6:30 in the morning. One of the cars thrown, though, into the front of the fast food restaurant. And you see a little more daylight kind of reveals just how bad the damage was. Both cars had severe damage and debris scattered across the intersection. We're told there were some people hurt, and those who were injured were taken to the hospital to go get checked out. And a nearby LG&E pole was also damaged. And so also, apropos of nothing, forgive the sniffles, just dealing with our cold weather, which we'll be talking about for sure much more in depth tonight. Louisville Metro Animal Services right now in their story, they're asking for help because they're saying some people, adopted the dog in question here out of the shelter a year ago. But they say this morning around 10, someone tied this dog to their gazebo at LMAS. They say the dog was adopted last year as, quote, unemployed roommate. So that is the biographical information they have on this dog. But no one on the chip is claiming his ownership, and the numbers linked to the microchip are also out of date or wrong. So it sounds like it's just a case of trying to find who would be responsible and try to follow the trail of breadcrumbs as to then how this dog was tied up at their gazebo. So if you do have any information about that, LMAS is asking that you do reach out to them in the hopes that they can resolve this and put an end to that case of that investigation. Here's a video of Governor Andy Beshear cutting the ribbon on the Speakeasy medical cannabis dispensary that's opening in Lexington tomorrow. Now, Speakeasy as a brand already runs 2 locations in Arkansas, and being in Kentucky where it's a medical cannabis program, a reminder that in order to shop there, you would have to show your medical cannabis card. In addition to the one they're about to open real soon in Lexington, there are 2 more dispensaries opening soon in Nortonville and another in Princeton, both out to serve Western Kentucky clientele a little more easily there. In other updates across policy business for state laws in Frankfurt, 2 bills that would impact every Kentucky driver in this instance would affect you if you're talking about something with your driver's license or if you have a cell phone, both of these matters apparently clearing the Senate panel in question today, Senate Bill 7. State senators are calling this some priority legislation, the ones who support it, because they're saying they want to return driver's licensing renewals back to the counties instead of regional licensing centers, as is the current setup. So if Senate Bill 7 passes, a county clerk, a sheriff's office, or a judge executive's office would have a place for you to go then renew your license, and it would be only for renewals, and it would only, or actually would be an option for the driver in question. County offices, they wouldn't have to be required to offer the service. They could opt in. Sponsor Aaron Reed says it's in response, though, to several complaints that lawmakers have received of either long drives or long waits at regional licensing offices.
Holding a cell phone.
You know, we have long drives, long lines, and repeated delays that have created real frustration across the Commonwealth. In many rural counties, families are traveling up to an hour or more just to obtain a license.
So that's Senate Bill 7. It would also add a $25 fee for renewals. Counties would pick up the extra cost. And the other bills, so number 2 that cleared this panel today is Senate Bill 28, or the Phone Down Kentucky Act. This would expand Kentucky's current law on the books to ban the use of any handheld electronic devices like a phone or a tablet while driving. So the law would allow GPS and Bluetooth use, just no texting, no watching videos. Sponsor, Senator Jimmy Higdon, says this is in response to cases of several cases, he put it, of distracted driving crashes across the state.
Holding a cell phone to your ear does take away your peripheral vision. And that's why we see a lot of accidents involving motorcycles, pedestrians, and bicycles.
Again, for context, both bills passed unanimously out of committee today. They're going to go to the Senate floor for further voting. If signed into law, the Phone Down Kentucky Act specifically would take effect in July. All right, crossing over to the other side of the Ohio River, and sometimes the audio in this catches us by surprise, but that's no big deal. Okay, but for drivers, Riverlink, it's picked a new toll service provider for its system. TransCore is the current roadside provider, and they're also going to oversee back office services under their new contract, so all dealing with Riverlink. But the services include either reviewing images, invoicing, customer service centers, including a walk-up center in both states involved here in Riverlink, Kentucky and Indiana, as well as having a local customer service call center should you have to take care of some business. It's a nearly 6-year, $146 million contract that it's expected to start next month to begin the transition of this new Riverlink cross-traffic tolling provider. And so I guess as we try to, research and confirm with the entities and the leaders involved, just any more particular details of what all the transition is going to include and entail. We'll make sure to let you all know what the details are for drivers that, this is part of your morning commute. It will be important to understand the particulars and the rules that you do have to follow. Should have stated this as we were letting you know that Julia is working on her original report for It's Not on Wave News at 11. A similar thing we're going to break down is the big points that Governor Mike Braun has been making as he is likely either still delivering or maybe wrapping up, getting closer to finishing his State of the State address for the year. Coming into the speech delivered to both chambers, both branches tonight, part of Governor Braun's speech was a focus on his, quote, freedom and opportunity agenda to make housing more affordable, lower energy rates, reform healthcare, and lowering prices. The governor says he plans to focus on new job opportunities and higher wages for workers across the state. So whatever those finer points have been, our digital team is following what those statements, the exact verbiage and quotes from the governor. So we're going to recap those highlights for you tonight at 11. Looking at the clock again, we're going to reset and have another slate of stories for you on the other side of the break. The first part of which is going to be sort of a quicker recap of more, national, international stories you've probably maybe been seeing, just scrolling through some of the headlines, but also, national outlets are reporting these stories of particular interest as well. So we're going to get to that first and then round things out with, news that would apply for us here across Wave Country. And that's where we're going to sort of wrap things up for you tonight. So hope you stay with us on Wave News Extra. We'll be right back after this. 8:31 here in the Wave Now studio, and this is going to be the latter part, the last round of stories to break down for you, and sort of walk you through some of the day's big stories wherever they are, and another opportunity for you on your smart devices, your phone, your tablet, wherever you might be joining us, just to after a long day's work, sort of understand what it is going on, not just in our community but beyond that as well. So in this national update, it has to do with sort of a lot of the recent reporting over the White House's stance to take charge of Greenland, take over, and the reporting then from the own island countries' officials saying that they do not want that. The talks with the Trump administration, though, coming to a head today as diplomats from Greenland and Denmark met with U.S. officials at the White House. Reporter Melanie Zanona has these details from Washington.
Greenland is not for sale. That's it from Danish and Greenland officials in their meeting with Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio.
The president has made his view clear, and we have a different position. Ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable.
Despite President Trump's latest heated talk of taking over the Arctic territory.
If we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen.
Greenland is an autonomous territory belonging to Denmark, but has its own officials and is self-governing. And the Prime Minister adamant that his country does not want to be owned or governed by the United States. Since his first term, President Trump has eyed the Arctic island, claiming it's vital for national security. But it's also rich in natural resources and is also crucial for new shipping routes and defense positions. Danish and Greenland officials signaling they're open to a deal to expand the U.S. military footprint on the Arctic island.
We have been pushing for quite a while in NATO for a stronger collective role in Greenland together with a number of allies. And we are eager to work with the U.S. on advancing this agenda, and we are prepared to go further.
All the talk of a takeover has put Greenlanders and European leaders on edge, but those same leaders vowing to support Greenland and Denmark.
It is important that the Greenlanders know, and they know this by the deeds, not only by the words, that we respect the wishes of the Greenlanders and their interests, and that they can count on us.
While President Donald Trump has not ruled out military action to acquire Greenland, buying it is also an option. However, it could be an exorbitant price tag. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, it could cost the United States as much as $700 billion in order to buy the Danish territory. Melanie Zanona, NBC News, Washington.
Now, staying in Washington, we've learned House Republicans plan to hold former President Bill Clinton and First Lady Hillary Clinton in contempt for refusing to testify in the Oversight Committee's Epstein investigation. Both failed to comply with subpoenas from the committee earlier this week. Now, committee chairman James Comer and Representative Comer of Kentucky saying that the committee is likely going to vote next Wednesday to hold both the former president and First Lady, former Secretary of State as well, in contempt of Congress. Comer telling reporters this morning Republicans and Democrats want to hear from both Clintons about what their interactions were with Jeffrey Epstein.
The Democrats are trying to stall, hoping that something else will happen. They were wanting to turn the attention off of the Clintons, which I think is very unfortunate because a week ago, the Democrats on the Oversight Committee wanted to hear from the Clintons.
In a letter sent to Comer that was released Monday, the Clintons' lawyers wrote the subpoenas were, quote, invalid and legally unenforceable. And so that update there from Washington. And in another, one of the major stories from very recently, it's an update that 6 federal prosecutors quit after DOJ leadership said it would not launch an investigation into the ICE officer who fatally shot Renee Good in Minneapolis. The DOJ says it does not believe there's evidence to back a criminal investigation. The prosecutor's departure, though, comes after claims they were facing pressure from the Trump administration over the shooting last week. The prosecutors who left say they were told to focus their investigation on Good's actions of that of her widow and others who may have been involved in ICE protests rather than on the officer's actions. In the past, the Department's Civil Rights Division has typically launched investigations into law enforcement-related shootings to make sure officers did not breach rights of a shooting victim in question, even if the investigation then never resulted in those charges. So this is the part where, splitting from the national stories, coming back to sort of round things out with stories of updates that are happening, closer to Wave Country and around the Commonwealth. With that, it's an update on a project hoping to, bring people a better understanding of the consequences of the historic flooding that devastated parts of eastern Kentucky back in 2022. And now this is all kind of formed together in a new documentary to showcase what the rebuilding process has been like ever since. And if you were interested in wanting to learn more about the final, presentation, as it were, it is a documentary called Rising. It's premiering tomorrow, actually, at the Kentucky Senator Baumard Theater in Louisville. For anyone who was interested in going, we learned that doors are opening at 6 to receive viewers, and then the screening starts at 7. The documentary from Teen Kentucky highlights the rebuilding of this part of our state following the 2022 floods, featuring stories and voices from local leaders, and then beyond that, state, federal, but also, more importantly, with flood survivors, with first responders and their nonprofit partners who have been on the ground trying to make things better to rebuild. And you can read much more about what this all entails as far as seeing what the work involved at the Kentucky Center website. And we certainly probably have a link to that up on wave3.com. In consumer updates here, and this is courtesy of the Sunrise team working on this, weight loss drugs, very popular discussion, especially surrounding GLP-1s that they themselves have gotten much more common, and the discussion has opened up since. For anyone who has been considering getting a prescription, this is an update from Wave News anchor Rob Wells, who talked to Norton doctors and medical experts about what you should know as more detailed findings, side effects, research, and just a general greater body to understand what it all means. This is Rob's story talking to those experts at Norton Health.
A Kaiser Family Foundation study revealed that about 1 in 8 adults in the U.S. say they're taking a GLP-1 drug such as Ozempic, Wegovy, or Zepbound. Norton Health nurse practitioner Jen Truman says they all have the same goal.
Generally, we're talking about a class of medication that are synthetic versions of hormones that are naturally produced within the body that kind of increase insulin sensitivity, really work in reward pathways in the brain to decrease cravings, and then kind of slow GI movement so that you feel full longer.
She said while they're a tool in your journey to good health, they need to be combined with a healthy diet along with exercise.
Not everyone can tolerate these medications, certainly. I think it's about 3% of folks in the initial trials ended up stopping Wegovy due to adverse GI side effects.
It's not cheap. Without insurance, some injectables can cost close to $1,000 monthly. But now some patients are using online pharmacies that may offer cheaper options.
The problem comes when people who are getting these drugs through some of these online pharmacies and compounding and whatnot, they might take it upon themselves to alter this dosing on their own, kind of choosing to, play with the doses in order to stretch their buck, essentially.
She added that can lead to gastrointestinal problems. But that's not all.
What can happen with these meds is people's appetites are so severely suppressed that maybe they even forget to drink. They can end up dehydrated in the hospital. And that's the situation that you can see when they aren't getting that close medical supervision.
And that was our Rob Wells reporting. GLP-1s like Wegovy are also offered now in a less expensive pill form. Rob's story and much more, something you can always check on wave3.com for a little more in-depth reporting and insight there. Our last story for the night is a bit in the world of novelties and oddities, let's call it that, because if you ever wanted to own your own island, there's an option that geographically is a lot closer than you might think. All it takes is crossing the border from Kentucky or Indiana into Ohio, though it is not a cheap piece of property. It comes in at $5 million, and we'll say it's lakeside in this case, and you'll see what I mean when you look at this image. So this is northwest of Port Clinton. It's on the blue-green waters of Lake Erie. It's called Mouse Island, and it's a 7-acre property with a lot of wooded area meant for privacy. So we've learned the island has been listed since this past summer, and the reason it's gone viral is that the current owners say they've gotten offers from as far away as Germany, hoping for this piece of quiet, private solitude.
They call it Mouse Island because of its shape. It looks like a little mouse from the aerial, but if you have the opportunity to buy this island, you can rename it to whatever you want.
Well, you could put condos on it. You could possibly, maybe if zoning would let you, put a restaurant on it. You can maybe make another resort.
Now, as for who owns it right now, that is another story to add to this reporting. The family currently in possession bought it from the family of U.S. President Rutherford B. Hayes, one of the original owners. And that's according to the Hayes Presidential Library and Museums. He bought out the other co-owners in 1879. This became then a Hayes family retreat for generations until they ultimately sold it to the current owners. So maybe if you're a fan of President Hayes or U.S. presidents in general, that would be something at least to go visit, or for those who would want to, get that in their asset class, whoever would like to do that. A reminder, folks, that again, as we remind you all that here you'll have the updates to most of the stories we want to share with you at your fingertips as they're updated almost pretty soon and instantly as our digital team gets them and updating them on the homepage. So much to break down and discover in categories, local, regional, national, international stories, all right there at your fingertips. And a reminder that you can also get updates sent straight to your phone when you download the Wave News app and the Wave Weather app, both great tools. The Wave Weather app, one in particular, as you're going to see over the next couple of days, a lot of weather changes that are likely going to make you adjust how you're driving around wave country, understanding, the precipitation. We're talking snow and wind and a mix of all that and how it's all going to come, the timing of it all. Something that meteorologist Ryan Hoke certainly is going to let you know how to prepare. Ryan basically staying with us, all this week. And so appreciate having him very calmly and very easily explain things to us. So hope you join us at 11 as we're going to talk more winter weather and more original reporting coming up at 11 o'clock. And we do appreciate you always joining us for this live stream from wherever you're tuning in. I'm Jose Sosaya for this edition of Wave News Extra. With our schedule, the case may be that there might be a brief pause just as taking care of some other assignments tomorrow. But then I believe the plan is to be back here for you on Friday night around 8:05. That is for sure. All right, folks, take care. In the meantime, we'll see you soon.